friends! Welcome back to our channel if you've seen our videos before, and if you are new, my name is Abby, and I got new bookcases! Yes! So today I'm going to be doing a bit of a 2-for-1 video of sorts. I'm going to be doing the 2020 Goodreads Year in Review tag, which I was tagged for by our wonderful friend Nina over at Wrestling with Disney. She created this tag, if I'm not mistaken, with our friend Heather from The Disney Housewife, and they made this back at the end of 2020, and it's taken me this long to actually do this video because I wanted to do a bit of a mashup of this tag and also setting up my new bookcases. But these were so hard to find when I tell y'all. We went to 7 different furniture stores. 7 different furniture stores, and we couldn't find just a plain old bookcase. And we finally found 3 of them, so I've got 3. So there's these 2 here, and then there's one in the corner that you guys can't really see, but I'm mainly going to keep that one, I think, for like notebooks and Bible study stuff, and these 2 are going to be for my actual book collection. So I'm going to be setting these guys up, unpacking all of my books. If you missed it, we moved at the end of last year, and the 2 white bookcases that are in our normal background now on our regular videos used to be mine. They actually, Hope and I have had them since we were very small children. One of them used to be hers, one of them used to be mine, and then when we moved into the rental, I inherited both, and now we're here and I've upgraded a little bit, and I'm really excited. So we're gonna unpack all of my books. I'm gonna tell you about the books that I read in 2020. We're gonna have a good time. Let's get started, shall we? The hair is back. The boxes are pulled in here. I have so many boxes of books. It's ridiculous. And we're gonna get into this video. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start with question number 1. The idea that I have of doing this video, we're gonna see if this works, is I'll answer a question, unpack a box, and go back and forth that way. I have a sketched tiny little diagram of where I think I want things to go. So we're gonna see how this goes. Wish me luck. So the first question for the tag is, how many books did you read this year? Obviously referring to 2020. And the answer to that question is I read 98 books. Goodreads will tell you I read 95, but I beta read 3 books for writer friends, so I'm counting those too because that counts. So 98 was my grand total, and I'm pretty happy with that. So, yay. I don't know which box to unpack first. I should have thought this through better. I have some regrets. So I'm gonna start at the tippy top. This is a box of books from my childhood. So I've got, you know, Anne of Green Gables. I've got some Nikki Holland mysteries. Got Dear America in here. So I'm gonna take those all the way up, I think, because I don't need to access them super often. Just every once in a while. So here we go. Oh, I forgot these were in here. Oh boy. Can you play Spot the Christian Homeschooler? It's me. One box down. Too many to go. I apologize in advance because these angles are going to be all over the place. But question 2 is, what was the first book that you read this year? So this is actually kind of tough because I was reading like 3 books at the beginning of 2020 pretty much simultaneously. I read a lot of books at the same time. But I think the first book I read was Sparkling Cyanide by Agatha Christie. Which is kind of interesting because the first book that I read in 2021 was The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie. So I don't know if this isn't a new thing for me starting the year with an Agatha Christie. I wouldn't be mad if it is because I'm on an Agatha Christie kick right now and I have no shame about it. So Sparkling Cyanide, I believe, was my first read of 2020. So next I'm just going to go down a shelf and fill in this one right here, which I think is going to be my Narnia books. And guess who found her bookmarks, baby? It's me! Okay, I don't know if this is going to stay here forever, but I kind of love it here. Question number 3 for the tag is, what was your most anticipated read of the year? And I had a lot I was looking forward to. A lot of my favorite indie authors released books this year, but I think the one I was looking forward to the most was probably Poison Stance by Trisha Minjerink. I'm sorry, Trisha, if I'm butchering your name, but I love her Beyond the Tales books. If you're a fairy tale retelling lover, you need to read these books. They're so good. And this was her 12 Dancing Princesses retelling. Essentially, this is like a fairy tale retelling set in a fantasy world that's based in like the Appalachian Mountains. That's kind of like the setting idea, and it's so good. And I'm happy to say this one did not disappoint. I absolutely loved it. Struggle I'm having with myself. So most of the time I like to have my read books, the books that I've already read, organized by author last name. But they don't, I mean, they look okay. They don't all match size-wise or whatever. But the question is, what do I do when the series doesn't all fit on the same shelf? Do I switch them around? Do I put the series somewhere else? What if I have 2 books by the same author, but they're completely different sizes, so they don't look at all good next to each other? What do I do? I'm having a moment. Just get... Okay. Question number 4. What was the shortest book you read this year? Okay, I gotta find it. Hold on. So apparently, according to Goodreads, the shortest book that I read this year was Happy Birthday, Kirsten. I don't even know who wrote this. Was this Valerie Tripp? No, Janet Shaw. So when I am, you know, anxious or sad or just don't feel super great, most of the time what I do is I go back to the books of my childhood and I give them a reread. It's just like comforting. It makes me feel good. And American Girl was one of those things that I chose this year. If you're not from America, or this is like after your time, American Girl is a collection of books, and they had 18-inch dolls of these characters that were girls throughout American history. So I read Kirsten, who was 1854, she's pioneer type time period. Samantha from 1904, turn of the century, women's suffrage and stuff like that, and then Kit from the Great Depression, 1934. Those were the 3 that I reread this year, and evidently, out of the 3, Happy Birthday, Kirsten is the shortest book. So I didn't know that, but that's a fun fact for you. Alright, I think next I'm gonna actually go back up to the top, and I'm gonna put my classics up there. Because I have like my Barnes & Noble Classics editions, and I think I'm gonna put them up in the high bit, because I don't access these that much, really, so I can put them up a little bit higher where I have to get a step ladder to get to them. Alright, so I put all of my classic books way up there on the high shelf, and now we're going into question number 5. What was the longest book you read this year? It's this one right here. It's this chunker. This is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. This was one of my favorite books of the year, and might be one of my favorite books of all time. I'm gonna have to reread it in order to verify that it's one of my favorite books of all time, but I really loved it. And it was 846 pages. I also read Winter by Marissa Meyer this year, and I thought it might dethrone this, but this one just squeaked by to be the biggest book that I read this year. Look how chunky. But this was a masterpiece. Oof, I love this book. I'm honestly scared by that, so I'm gonna go this way, and I'm gonna make my indie shelf right there, because I don't want to deal with that. That's what I'm missing. Oh, okay, well, that fixes that problem. All right, that works for me. I'm actually currently reading that one, but I'm gonna put it there so it'll hold its spot. So if I put things there, it won't lose its spot. That made more sense in my head, I think. Question 6, what book surprised you the most, for good or for bad? I'm gonna go with for good, and that was 3 Times Lucky by Sheila Turnage. I just talked about this one in my 2020 book haul, but I did not expect to find this book or to love this book as much as I did. This one I found just by a random perusal of my library's audiobook offerings, and it's a middle grade murder mystery, and I did not see it coming, and it became one of my favorite books of the year, and I absolutely loved it so much that I needed to buy it for my collection. So yeah, definitely this one was a big surprise. Ooh, okay. Number 7, what was the worst book you read? Don't come for me, and I understand if you love this book, it just wasn't for me, but if you saw our Tale as Old as Time book club live discussion of Alice in Wonderland, you'll know that this book and I did not get along this year. It wasn't Wonderland. I'm fine with Wonderland. The actual story of the book was fun. I enjoyed the concept of Wonderland. I liked spending time there, but I just could not get behind the character of Alice. I can't. Why is she so rude to everyone? I don't understand. I'm not gonna go into it, but yeah. Alice in Wonderland and I did not super get along this year. L-M-N-O. Yes, I sing the alphabet song to myself, don't judge me. P. I'm gonna move these. These don't belong here. I don't know where they belong yet, but it's not there. All bookshelf setups are, it's just adjusting for a million years. Ugh. Okay, question number 8. What book exceeded your expectations? There were several, actually. I had a lot of anticipated reads for 2020, but I think the first one that comes to mind is When You Trap a Tiger by Tay Keller, which I want to get a copy of, and it was just announced like this week when I'm filming this that this just won the Newbery Medal, and I am so excited. It so deserves it. I had read Tay Keller's first book, The Science of Breakable Things, and I loved it a lot. It was really emotional, but I really enjoyed it. And this is her newer release, and it's based on like Korean mythology, I think, which was fascinating. I haven't really studied that at all. And I cried like a baby through the last part of the book, and I have no shame. So yeah, it was really, really good. TBR now. Woo! So typically where I organize the books that I've already read by author last name, I organize my TBR, my to be read, books I haven't read yet but I own, by color. Or at least that's what I started doing, and I really like the way it looks. So I'm gonna try and recreate that. It's going to be very loose because I'm constantly finding books that I forgot I haven't read yet, so it's going to be added to and moved around a lot, but I have a general idea of what I want to do, so let's see if we can make it happen. Red, orange, yellowish, goldish is the idea. I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to do our best. Okay, question number 9. What author did you read the most of? So I think, and double checked on Goodreads, but I think it's C.S. Lewis, because I read 4 of the 7 Chronicles of Narnia, and then I also read Till We Have Faces and A Grief Observed. So I think with 6, I think it's C.S. Lewis. I mean, any of the American Girl authors would also count, but I'm going to say it was C.S. Lewis because that sounds nicer. On the floor. Okay. Ugh. Can you? That sounded a lot worse than it was. I'm fine. Okay. So, fun fact about me, I own almost every book that Rick Riordan has ever published. I still don't have Tower of Nero because I'm sad and I don't want the series to end, but so yeah, they all go on their own shelf because there's so many of them now. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do now. Boom. Riordan shelf is done. That was so easy. I liked that a lot. I think I'm getting close-ish to being done with this. So I'm going to answer 2 questions this time because I'm feeling feisty. Question number 10. If you could recommend one book that you read this year to your subscribers, which would it be? So there are a lot of books that I read this year that I would recommend, but I think the one that came to mind was Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis. If you haven't read this yet, oh boy, is this so good. Obviously I always recommend Narnia, but this is one that I hadn't ever picked up, even though I had heard for years and years and years that it's amazing. And one of my friends was hosting a read-along at the beginning of this year, so it was kind of like the perfect opportunity. I was like, I'm gonna read it, and I loved it so much. This is incredible. This is a retelling of the story of Cupid and Psyche, which was not a myth that I was that familiar with, but C.S. Lewis really took it, and it's heartbreaking, it's melancholy, and it's just beautiful. So if you haven't read Till We Have Faces, I would recommend this one. Also, A Grief Observed. That was the other C.S. Lewis, not Narnia book that I read this year, and that one was really hard, but it was really good. And then question 11, did the challenges of 2020 help or hurt your ability to read? Both, kind of. In some ways it helped because I was home more than normal, but I was also in the biggest reading slump of my entire life this year. It kept coming and going. It would like come for a while and then it would kind of slack off and I could read some, and then it would be like deep slump again where I just wanted to binge TV and not actually read, and it was killing me. So yeah, even though I read 98 books this year, that's actually less than normal for me, and it was a pretty slow and inconsistent reading year. So I would like not read for 3 weeks and then read 3 books in 3 days, and there was like no in between. So it was both. It kind of helped and hurt at the same time. I think I'm pretty much done, actually. There's going to be some more adjusting that has to happen, but I'm not going to do that on camera because that's going to be boring. But for the most part, I think I got them pretty much where I want them, which is very exciting. Look how much more colorful it is behind me already. Oh, I love it. So let's just breeze through the last few questions in the tag, and then I'm going to go get a snack because I am hungry. It's hard work putting books on shelves. Like, you don't expect it to be like physical manual labor, but whew. Question number 12. What book are you currently reading And do you think you'll finish it before the end of the year? So this was from the tag before 2020 was over. So I'm just going to tell you the last book that I read in the year. Does that seem valid? Okay, so the last book that I finished in 2020 was Then Again Maybe by Susan L. Tuttle. Susan is one of my favorite contemporary authors. She writes contemporary romance, and it's so good. If you are a fan at all of like Christian romance, you need to check her books out because I am a sucker for all of them. This is her newest release. I actually won this copy in a giveaway, which means that it's signed. So exciting. And this is actually the sequel to her first book, or at least it's the first book of hers that I read, which is At First Glance. But this is the sequel to that one. It follows two of the side characters from that book, and it's beautiful and wonderful, and I loved it. And all three of my December reads, I only read 3 books in December, but all 3 of them were 5 stars, and that made me very happy. So yeah. Question 13. Did you finish your 2020 Goodreads challenge? Yes, I did. So every year, pretty much, I set my starting goal at 75 books, because that's typically one that I can hit no problem. So I actually upped it. Well, I guess yes and no. I did hit my first Goodreads challenge, which was 75 books. Then I moved it up to 100 books because that's typically around where I can hit. I usually hit like 100, 104 the past few years. And I didn't quite hit that goal. So yes and no on hitting the Goodreads challenge goal. Yeah. And then a bonus question for Disney YouTubers is, what book that you read do you think Disney fans are most likely to enjoy? This is a fun question, and I like this one. So I did read a ton of Disney-inspired or Disney-published books this year with the Tale as Old as Time book club that I host here on our channel, but I think the one that comes to mind that's not Disney-affiliated at all is One Bad Apple by Rachel Kovacini. I'm not 100% sure if that's how you say her last name, and I feel really bad about that. I'm sorry, Rachel. But this is everything. This was one of my favorite books of the year as well. It's a retelling of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs set on the Oregon Trail, and it was just so good. So Rachel does have a whole series of Western retellings, of like retelling set in a Western setting. This is the only one I've read. This is her newest release, but I am dying to read the others because this was everything. We follow an orphan. He's one of 7. Between him and his siblings and cousins, and they encounter a wagon train that's going west, and they're kind of taken in by this wagon train, and something seems to be amiss between Hopeful Malone and her stepmother. And I don't want to say too much about it other than that, but it was just everything I wanted it to be. It was perfection, and I absolutely loved it. If you're a Disney fan and you're into retellings at all, this is one of the most unique Snow White ones that I've read, so I would definitely recommend One Bad Apple, for sure. And that is it for the 2020 Goodreads Year in Review Challenge Tag. Fun time had by all. I hope you enjoyed this video. For the most part, my bookshelves are set up. much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe down below for more Disney magic, and I'm hoping to roll more bookish videos into our content, especially now that I have kind of a nice background, bookish background to film in front of. Yay! Let me know down below how you organize your books, because I'm very curious. Do you do it by author last name? Do you do it by color? Do you do it by something entirely different? Let me know. And I will see you guys in our next video. Bye! I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I want.